Pascal. You are now rocking with that dude Pascal. We be going wild, Haitian in the building, so original. Got the haters catching feelings. Get your hands up to the ceiling and keep them held high. Cause St. Louis isn't ready. Forget about it, goodbye. Hold on, we just saying hi. Five somebody rise up. Weekdays, catch us live. Somebody, let's go.
Good afternoon. Good evening and good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Pascal Show. Sorry for the wait. Had to take care of a few things, but we are here. And honestly, I did not expect this to happen right now, just recently. So I know I'm a little bit late to the party with this update, but, like an hour and a half or so late. I mean, it's called life, you know what I'm saying? We out here doing other things called lifing. Life be lifing, but this is still very shocking for me. And I'll explain why it's shocking. It's not what you think, but it is still shocking to me nonetheless. And we got to talk about this because I know this is splitting the room and all that. And of course, just a little bit of a change of pace because, we've been talking a lot of diddler and we are still going to be talking a lot of diddler. Trust and believe. But this is something that I wanted to talk to you guys about for sure, because I was keeping an eye on this whole trial. But suddenly now, there is a verdict, which I'm going to be real. I'm surprised about the verdict. And again, not what you think. Let's get into this. So please do me a favor. Hit that like button down below. Crush it. Do what it do. Okay, before you guys jump down my throat, hold on. Time out. Before you go, what do you mean? What do you mean surprised about the verdict? Because I know some people are like, he did that. Now, I understand what you feel, but at the same time, I am still shocked. Surprised. Not shocked, surprised. Hit that like button down below. Hit that reaction button if you're watching on other platforms, please, and thank you. That'll be greatly appreciated. If you're watching on the TikTok, I see a bunch of y'all in here. Hit that heart down there. I got some roses up above hitting that goal. That'll be greatly appreciated. So do that, please, and thank you. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Follow me as well on all my platforms. This is not going to be a super long show. This is just an update on the verdict, because the verdict has been reached in the Delphi unaliving case, and we have definitely got to talk about it. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on both platforms, because I got some videos coming to you guys on the secondary channel here very, very shortly. Just didn't know that there was going to be a verdict, so I hopped on here to give you guys the update now before I upload some other things on the secondary channel. So subscribe, follow me on Rumble, because I'm streaming live on Rumble as well, please and thank you. Don't forget to check out my merch page, pascalmerch.com. And of course, I do have that I do have a GoFundMe. And mods, if you could put the GoFundMe up in the chat, that'd be greatly appreciated. Trying to raise some money for this holiday special that I'm putting together right now as we speak. Anyway, guys, let's get into this doggone thing. We got to get straight into it. Now, of course, there's a lot of people that are wanting, all of us, I think we can all agree in unison that we want some justice for these two young girls, Abby and Libby. Of course, they were found unalive the day before Valentine's Day in 2017, if I'm correct. Yep. These girls were hiking on Manan High Bridge Trail when they disappeared. Now, like I said, I covered this years ago, or like a while back. It's been a sprinkling of conversations revolving around this case. But there's been a lot of things that have been popping off in regards to Richard Allen. Now, I got to pull up this photo. I thought I had the photo of this doggone dude. So just grant me a little grace. I thought I had it up, but it is not up. So hold on one second. Where the heck did it go? There it is. Now, the thing is that, let me just pull this up so you guys can all see this, so we can look at this as a family. Now, Richard Allen is the man that he was in trial because allegedly they believe that he is the man. He is the monster that did this unthinkable thing, took the life of these two young girls. Now, of course, this was a mystery for many, many years. And then, excuse me, out of nowhere, a little while back, there was a press conference where they said that they found the guy, this guy right here, Richard Allen. Now, what's interesting is time goes on, there has been a lot of, let's just say it's been really mucky, a lot of mucky muck going on. And I understand why this has been very polarizing, for lack of a better term. There's been a lot of people that feel like this man is guilty, and there's a lot of people that feel like this guy is definitely innocent. Now, what's interesting about this is this man is caught on tape confessing. He confesses multiple times. This isn't a thing where he just confessed just one time, or that he didn't confess at all, and then they just had enough evidence to pit up against him. No, this man admitted to doing the unaliving multiple times. Now, here's the thing. For everybody who's out here that feels like, uh-oh, you know what I mean? That ain't true. I understand and get why there's been a split, why there's been this has been so polarizing, why this has split the room. Because some people believe that he was coerced into, tortured into saying this. Let's be real. What you see right here in this photo right here is not what he looks like later on. In the very beginning, this is what he looked like. Looking like he had his fourth meal. All right? Looking like he eating good in the neighborhood. I don't know why I'm doing fried chicken right now. That sounds good. Okay? Looking like he big Popeye chicken eating mother lover. Eating good. But then later on, he looks like he hasn't eaten in days, months even. So there's a big old theory, conspiracy theory, whatever you want to call it. You could wear the tinfoil hat on this or not. They believe that this man was being mistreated poorly to the point where he lost his mind and started saying, I did it, man. I did it. Fine. I did it. Hence the reason why people are feeling some type of way about this. Mind you, he has admitted to doing this on tape multiple times. Not only did he confess, but he also says it in phone conversations with his wife as well. We have to remember all of those things added into this. And I also will say this too. When this is presented to a jury, when this goes into court and they throw this stuff out here and they say, well, he said it multiple times on tape. He's caught on tape multiple times admitting to taking the life of these two girls. It's really hard for a jury to walk away with, oh yeah, he's innocent. There's reasonable doubt. There's reasonable doubt. Okay, now again, you got to remember. Now, I'm not a lawyer. Okay, let me just say this. I'm not a lawyer, nor was I in the courtroom. But I have been listening to a lot of Andrea Burkhart, by the way, our good friend on the show. Okay, she's been kicking some serious butt and covering this at great lengths. So, and I've been hearing her side, and I understand her side 110%, because it does seem like he was pushed, tortured into doing or into saying, yes, I did it. Because, at some point, law enforcement is going to want to pin it on somebody. Law enforcement is going to want to pin the tail on a donkey. Doesn't matter if the donkey already got a tail. They still want to pin the tail on a donkey and say, see, pin the tail on the donkey, and we did it blindfolded too. And they spun us counterclockwise 15 times before we did this. See what we did? Bullseye. Pin the tail on. Yes, it's got two tails, but shut up. Step back and be proud. Now, there is still that possibility. I'm not going to sit here and say that that isn't a possibility. For sure, we all need a villain, right? We all need someone to stare at and go, that's the mother lover. I get that part. But when you have somebody out here saying they done did it multiple times, and you present that is allowed in court, that information is allowed in court and is presented to a jury, what do you think the jury's going to think? Well, it's open and shut case. He's admitting to it several times multiple times on tape that he done did it. Bob's your uncle, as some might say. Why stick around and sit on this? But if there is other proof of him actually losing his mind, that should be held accountable. That should be used and be accounted for as well. Shouldn't it? If it's somebody who has clearly slipped, they're slipping into senility, their senility is slipping, whatever you want to call it. If they're slowly slipping into, losing their sanity, that information should be presented and should be held accountable when they go into court, right? So at some point, it's up to the jury to make a decision whether this is solid, whether the prosecution, the state presented a solid argument or not. You also got to remember, there's some crazy stuff that I learned, and I think we're going to be listening to it in a little bit. Like I said, we're not going to be on here for a long time because the verdict is the verdict. It is what it is. Is this just? Is this unjust? I don't know. Personally, I don't know. I was not in the room, nor was I interrogating this man or anything of that sort. But I just don't see why because hold on. Something just popped in my head. Sorry for the interruption in my own head. I interrupted myself, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. But I just don't see why any person, real quick, would ever just go, yeah, I did it. I did it, okay? I did it. Calling up your wife saying I did it. Doing all this other things. Saying you did it on multiple occasions. It just doesn't make sense to me. Unless this person is literally losing their doggone mind. Then on top of it, I hear other things about him doing some unthinkable things while locked up, but also the conditions of how he was living is absolutely deplorable. Doesn't matter if this guy is a monster or not. Doesn't matter if he did it or not. He is still a human being and he still has human rights. And he should be treated like a human. But when you're not feeding him properly, when you're not, you're depriving him of certain regular human amenities, that's insane. And that should be looked into as well, because that could be a tactic to make somebody's mind snap and make them go, okay, I'll say whatever you want. Just give me a piece of bread. Just give me some water. I will take water at this point. I don't care. But when you hear the conditions in which he is living in and what he is doing just so he can survive, it's absolutely insane. Absolutely inhumane. So, of course, you put that into consideration. Does this mean that he was coerced? He was pushed? to a place where he said, I did it? Could this be a Central Park 5 situation all over again? Or no? Remember what happened with those guys. They admitted to doing what they did. They admitted to doing what they didn't do. Then, of course, there was the whole public quartering. They were strung up and publicly ridiculed for something that they didn't even do, but they were coerced and pushed to a place where they just admitted, yes, I did it. We all did it, when they didn't do it at all. So it is something to think about. It is something to think about. But I will say this, though, too. It's very, very hard. It's going to be very, very hard for the defense to actually prove this information. Yes, the conditions are terrible. They can use that as an example. But it's really hard to take back something that you've said, that he has said countless times, caught on tape. Not only just saying it to the police, he's also saying this to his wife. He is heard saying these things countless times. Now, here's the thing. Before we continue on, like I said, we haven't had a chance to really wax law or wax trials here in a little bit, because we've been talking about a slew of different things. But what if he's also acting like he's lost his marbles? I know. Some of you guys are gonna be like, "Oh, boo, tomatoes." But hear me out, though. What if there's a situation where he just said, "Oh, damn, I just confessed all that. Okay, I got to act crazy. I just got to act insane in the membrane." I mean, that's possible. If we're willing to put on the table, on one side of the spectrum, that he has lost his marbles, he was pushed to a place of insanity, hence the reason why he was coerced to confess. Why can't we leave on the table, too, that maybe he's out here putting on an act to maybe soften the blow, or to maybe get a not guilty verdict, to throw in reasonable doubt into the mix? Just asking a question. All right? Yeah, I'm just saying, Lillian, who the hell confesses? Thank you so much for the comment. Who the hell confesses 60 times? All right? Who confesses 60 times? And then they say a mentally ill person. Guilty people don't even confess like that. Well, it's a good point. But like I said, what if he was like, fine, I did it. Oh, damn. Damn. And then he's like, okay, time to go crazy. Time to just go all the way in. Time to turn this thing all the way up to 15 and rip the mother-loving knob off. What if? Obviously, I'm just asking questions. But if we're going to go on the side of, oh, yeah, no, he lost his marbles, then we also got to put on the other side, too, for a second there. We got to leave that on the table. What if he's doing that just for show? Anything's possible. Then at the same time, let's talk about 5-0. Let's talk about prosecution. Let's talk about the state. Them willing to do whatever it takes to get their man, to get any man for this particular case. Because you know for a fact, everybody and their mom is watching that too. What if they didn't have the right guy? What if they don't know if they have the right guy? But he was there. He said it on a phone call, on a tip line, saying, hey, I was there. I'm just saying. What if they're like, he's good enough. Close enough, let's bring him in. We at least got a face. We got a villain now. Everyone can hate this guy. Look at him. Everyone can hate him now. But now we got to convince him that he did it too. Just saying, it's very interesting nonetheless. But now, of course, he has been found guilty. All right. He has been found guilty. We got a couple videos we're going to look at here because there has been a lot of live coverage of this as well. And we have got to take a look at that. So let's take a look at some of this. Is this, and I will continue asking this, is this full justice? Do you believe that this is justice for these two girls or no? Like I said, I know a lot of people are like, well, there was still reasonable doubt here. There still was definitely reasonable doubt here. And some people go, no. Like I see a lot of y'all in the chat going, no, him guilty. He did that. Wrap it up and keep it moving. But my question also is too, second question. If you believe he did this, did he really do this alone? Or no? And I guess the third question I have is, if you believe he didn't do this, where do you think the other person is then? The real monster. If this is one bold-face setup, like some of you guys believe this is a bold-face setup, see, look at that. If you believe that that is one full bold-face setup, then where the hell is this other guy? Is it really some ritualistic thing? Some pagan, random, ritualistic thing that they did? Sacrificing these two young girls? Or was it someone trying to satiate some sort of bloodlust? Those are all the questions I have in my head. But notice him there, right here. See? There he is here. And this is what he was before. He looked like before he got arrested. And no, he didn't pick up keto. All right. He didn't realize he had a gluten allergy, and he just said no to all pastries. Nope. No. Allegedly, he was deprived of many, many things, allegedly, while he was behind bars. And this is what he looks like currently. Let's take a look at this. Let's hear some of this. We got a couple things we're going to look at here. So let's rock and roll. Hit that like button down below, please, and thank you. I know I'm a little late to the party with the verdict, a few hours late, but at the same time, I did want to bring this to you guys because I have been watching. Oh, I've been watching. I just hate when they have these kinds of trials that aren't on camera. So you just kind of hear things through other content creators. And I will also say, shout out to all the content creators that went out there. So like Andrea Burkhart, Hidden True Crime. I think the Survivor, the Survivor, I forgot the last part of that podcast, but they all went out there and were covering this. So mad love and shout out to all of them for being out there and checking out this trial for weeks. But it's wild. And I know a lot of people are feeling, like I said, some people feel like he's innocent, and some other people don't think he's innocent at all. So hit that like button down below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We're this close to 150K. We're so close. It's ridiculous. So don't forget to subscribe. If this is your first time checking out this show, I appreciate it. All right. But let's get into this.
Of the juries, were they stoic? Were they? Did they look at anyone?
To be honest, Emily, I was looking directly at Richard Allen, and I was trying to look at the families. We should mention a sentencing date has been set. So December 20th is when Richard Allen will be sentenced. And during the sentencing portion of the verdicts being read today, this was after the verdicts were read, but at that point, Richard Allen turned around. It was the first emotion that we saw. He looked at his wife, Kathy, and he said, "Are you okay?" Kathy was crying. Richard Allen's mother was in court. She was crying. Again, as things started to clear out, Jerry Holman, Indiana State Police detective, who has been on this case for multiple years, he went over and he hugged the defense team and he kissed Nick McLeland, the prosecutor. There were a lot of hugs on the side of the prosecution. Again, after the families were starting to leave, we were asked to stay in the courtroom to give the families a chance to file out. The families went up to the prosecution team, shook hands, hugged as well. So a lot of emotion. Again, everyone
So
kind of kept things.
It's very interesting because it is a mixed bag of reaction revolving around this. There are a lot of people. There are a lot of people that are absolutely shook by this verdict, that they feel like an innocent man is being thrown behind bars. And then there's a lot of people that feel like, damn right, throw him behind bars, lock him up and throw away the key, because this man is most definitely guilty as hell. So, I'm going to pull up, put a poll up here, excuse me, in just a second. So let me play a little bit more of this video, because there's a few more things we're going to look at. I think we're going to look at something from Court TV as well, because they reacted. And like I said, it's interesting the amount of information that was basically given throughout this trial that was like the lack of comeuppance and lack of due diligence from law enforcement themselves as well. Like I said, this man allegedly called in to the hotline and said, "I was there." And what did they do? Allegedly, he said he called in way early. This wasn't like he called, and then a week later he was pulled in for investigation and interrogation. No, he called in a while ago. And still nothing from 5-0. But scary stuff. To think that you could call up, think that you're doing, just on the side of erring on the side of him innocent, let's just say, someone calling up and just being like, yeah, I was in that area. I was there. I saw some people, so on and so forth. Saw 3 girls, right? It's easy for someone to just get taken and, let's just say, construct the evidence to look like it's leaning towards his general direction, and then bang, you got a monster on your hands. You got a convict on your hands. It's scary. Yeah. Cyber warrior. Law enforcement botched the investigation so badly. Exactly. So I can see why there is such a reaction the way it is right now, that there's so many people that are sitting there going, no, he's innocent, or there is reasonable doubt. And now you're throwing a guy in prison because you just believe that he's the bad guy, when maybe he's not fully the bad guy, which is interesting. And yeah, thank you, Melly, for that information too. Yeah, I was hoping that there would be some sort of press conference, but there wasn't a press conference at all. Okay, none, zero, no press conference. But all right, because there's a gag order on all of these people, and they can't say anything for another, 5 weeks or so? Ain't that something? Ain't that something? But we got to get into this. But like I said, I'm going to put up a poll. I'm going to let this play a little bit while I put up this poll. What are your thoughts? I mean, do you think, do you think they got their man or not? I hop back and forth personally. I'm like, man, who goes out of their way to say that they did it? I don't know who goes out of their way to say that. And here's the other thing. Lillian said made a comment earlier, and I have to say this really quick because it just popped in my head. She said, "Who in their right mind says it 60 times?" Right? That's somebody who's clearly not mentally well. But then you look at something like the 5 kids. I hate to keep going back to that, but the Central Park 5, they all said that they did it. They all did. Is that all madness? Or are they being coerced and and pushed to that place? Something to think about. Let's take a look at this. Let's take a listen.
In check while the jury was in there, while the judge was in there afterward. That's when we saw the emotion really starting to let out.
This is the day, Emily, and
Today
we've
is the
heard
day.
the family say this is the day many, many times, but now finally this is the day for justice for the families of Libby and Abby.
Yeah, I can hear them saying it. Today is the day. They would say it so many times over the years, and to be here in this moment, I have goosebumps considering it and thinking today is the day for them. Today is the day for Abby and Libby and their families, the people that love them.
There's no doubt that this legally was, in many ways, if you looked at outside observers, says there's just a circus going on there. I mean, there was just no love lost between the defense and the prosecution and the judge in this case. Often after we hear a verdict, then we hear, well, there will be an appeal. Any word, any talk about that? Walk us through those steps as we count down to sentencing, where at last report I had read that Richard Allen could get up to 130 years in prison if convicted of all the charges. Is that
130 years
with what you?
Hold on, 130 years, damn. I mean, if he really did this, then damn right, keep him locked up for the rest of his natural life. Real talk.
Been finding.
Well, if I remember correctly, I think
Wow.
it's 46 years on the main counts, and whether those are going to be concurrent, whether those are going to be consecutive, there will be a pre-sentence report that will be filed that the judge will consider at the sentencing hearing. The judge will hear from both the prosecutor and from the defense to try to mitigate as far as either how lengthy or how short the sentence will be. So again, the judge is the one who's going to decide what the sentence is going to be. And to your point regarding an appeal, we pretty much, that's almost a certainty. There was certainly a lot of evidence that the defense wanted to enter into this case that they were not allowed to, that Judge Gall told them that she did not think that they had enough of a link between some of the things that they wanted to bring in and the actual crime. So the defense most certainly will be filing an appeal in this case, and it will go to the Indiana Court of Appeals.
And Bob,
Interesting. Well, obvious. I feel like it's obvious that the defense is going to, and I know that they have a quote saying like, we ain't done yet. We ain't giving up, that kind of thing. So I'm not surprised today. And so I'm not surprised that they're going to sit there and appeal and try to get it again. You know what I mean? Especially when you have evidence that you weren't even allowed to present. You weren't even allowed to put into and add into the trial. I mean, it depending on what that information and that stuff is. I mean, is it fair? Is it not? I don't know. It all depends. It all depends. But let's continue on.
Would they file that after he is sentenced?
It's a good question. I don't know that. I'll be interested to hear that from Katie Jackson-Lindsay as far as the timing of how all that plays out. But I believe it probably would take place after the sentence.
Because listen, there was a handful of people that this defense team believed in their alternate theory was responsible in this crime, and they wanted to be able to talk about that to the jury. Again, as you said, Judge Gall ruled no, that's not going to happen. That would confuse the jury, and we're going to stick with the set of facts right here, and that's what they did.
Richard Allen was arrested and has been in custody since October of 2022, so 2 years served. Part of the testimony in this case is that was a very difficult time, especially when he was in solitary confinement. Having a mental breakdown was part of the argument, even part of the testimony that we're trying to determine whether or not he had developed some sort of psychosis. So that's another thing that will be taken into consideration in the sentencing as well for those 2 years since he's been here in custody, state custody, since 2022.
Yeah, all those things will be a factor, and there are multiple items that the defense will want to bring up on appeal, whether they were allowed to enter certain things that the judge did not allow them to, witnesses that they wanted to bring, evidence that they wanted to show the jury that they were not able to. So, and even the procedural moves that happened long ago, dating back here over the last year in this case, things that Judge Gall ruled on, those will all be brought up, and all of those things were preserved on the record by the defense team so that when this case does go to the Court of Appeals, those will be considered. But again, today, guilty. That is the verdict. That is, these 12 jurors who spent the last nearly month of their lives looking at all the evidence, looking at all the testimony. Decisive decision from these jurors today. They say Richard Allen is guilty of killing Abby Williams and Libby German.
Yeah, again, I'm surprised because I guess I figured there would be like at least another day or two until we would get a verdict. The verdict, like we did get the verdict. That's just me. I kind of expected it to be. I kind of expected a different turnout for this, but again, anything, like I said, I wasn't in the courtroom. I didn't see every nuanced piece of information that was dropped. All we know is from what was, has been put out here for everyone else. So again, it's a matter, and it's a question of, is this something that was justified? Did the jury pick the right verdict or not? You also got to remember too, this is going to sound, maybe this might sound crazy. I don't know. Real talk. I don't know. But it depends on how the prosecution or the defense presented themselves. If the prosecution presented a strong argument, solid argument, and then on top of that, pulling out the numerous times that he admitted to the guilt, admitted to the unalivings, that is some smoking gun evidence. How would a jury not lean on that side? Also, but this also tells you as well the how long it took them to do a verdict, to get to the verdict. It does tell you that the defense did pose something that would give that jury some sort of pause. Let's not forget that too. Let's not forget that too. If he really was guilty, like if he really was like, he did this and the jury just said, oh yeah, he did this, they would have walked in and walked out within a couple hours and said, we got a verdict, let's go. Y'all think he's guilty, right? Okay, bet. Guilty. Let's go in. It would have been a wrap soon, but it wasn't. That wasn't the case, now was it? So something obviously in the deliberation room does tell you a little bit of, there was some sort of, obviously there was some deliberation going on. I'm sure somebody in there was like, well, there is some reasonable doubt here. And then they had their argument. They had their conversation, which is also something very interesting to think about as well. I'm not surprised. I'm going to say this too. I'm not surprised that the
arrested for the murder.
Hold on. I'm not surprised if that they will try for another trial. I'm not surprised. So we'll see what happens here. But I do want to play a little bit of this because, like I said, the whole thing has been very, very interesting, to say the least. Let me just scrub up here really quick. I'm very interested to see what happens from this point on. Because you got to remember, there's family, friends, loved ones that are sitting there rejoicing right now about this verdict. If there is a possibility that this could be their joy, might be stifled here soon, in just a few months, if they're able to successfully get another trial. Something to think about. But I still do have the poll. It is pinned to the top of the chat. So get your ass to the poll. Let's hear what they got to say over here. Shout out to Court TV. You know we love our Court TV over here. So yeah. Shout out to Court TV. Don't forget to subscribe over there. They got of course they got great content. Okay. But let's take a listen to what they got to say here.
They all affirmed that was, in fact, their verdict. Guilty of 4 counts of murder, 2 counts of felony murder against Abigail Williams and Liberty German, 2 counts of intentional murder against Abby and Libby. Sentencing will happen on the 20th of December. The judge is setting aside all day. I can tell you, when we got into the courtroom about 10 minutes till 2, it was somber. Very quiet. Nobody was talking. The room was filled with members of law enforcement, Indiana State Police, the Carroll County Sheriff's Department. Abby and Libby's families were already inside the courtroom when the media was allowed in, and the Allen family was not present. The media members came in, took their seats. There were 14 seats available to the members of the general public. They were then brought in. Bradley Rosie and Jennifer Auger from the defense team were not in the courtroom. Richard Allen was. He was standing at the beginning talking with his defense attorney, Andrew Baldwin. The judge came in just after 2 o'clock and asked where Mr. Baldwin, or rather where Mr. Rosie and Jennifer Auger were. And the judge entered at 2:11, according to my notes. And Andrew Baldwin told the judge that they were waiting for Kathy Allen and members of Richard Allen's family to arrive. The judge said, so despite my directive to be less than 10 minutes away, she said, the jury has reached a verdict. When can we expect them? Andrew Baldwin replied they were on their way up. They entered the room at about 2:14. At 2:15, the jury, or rather 2:19, the jury entered. You could not tell from the looks on their faces. They did not make eye contact with Richard Allen or either family members of the victims, Abby and Libby, or Richard Allen's family. They came in, they sat down, they looked weary. And again, the room was absolutely quiet. The judge had admonished the crowd not to have any outbursts, that regardless of what the verdict was going to be, there were going to be people who were going to be unhappy with it. She said, you can take your unhappiness outside of the courthouse. Again, this jury finding Richard Allen guilty on all 4 counts of murder that he was facing after about 18 hours of deliberations over 4 days, Vinny.
So at the moment he's found guilty, everyone admonished not to say anything, not to react. What did you notice anything in the courtroom? Anything from a family member to Richard Allen?
Yeah, so his wife and mother, his wife Kathy and his mother Janice began sobbing. The people who were sitting around them hugged them, held them. They were audibly sobbing through most of the proceeding once that verdict was announced. There were members of Abby and Libby's family that were crying. There were others that just remained rather stone-faced as the verdict was read, and that immediate reaction. Once the sentencing date was set, the judge did say that we were free to leave. The law enforcement in the room allowed Richard Allen's family to leave first. After Richard Allen was outside of the court, he was immediately taken into custody. Obviously, he's been in custody, but that will change soon for him. Then the Allen family was allowed to leave, as were members of Abby and Libby's families. Some of their family members stayed to give hugs to members of the prosecution team, to Superintendent Doug Carter of the Indiana State Police and Lieutenant Jerry Holman of the Indiana State Police, as well as the prosecutor, Nicholas McClelland, Stacy Diener, James Luttrell. A bit of a celebration in court, although they weren't being very loud with that celebration. I was on the opposite side of the room, but there were a lot of hugs going around, a lot of pats on the back. The prosecution, though, remained somber looking throughout this entire proceeding today. And again, it was just very, very quiet in the courtroom. It was really the first time that I've been in the courtroom with all of these people, and you could hear a pin drop. A lot of
So again, yes, of course, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to feel some type of way about this, and of course, for a lot of people, this is bittersweet, and there's a lot of people that it's devastating as well. Because again, there are people in the room that believe he is not guilty, just like I'm seeing in the poll right now. We haven't even hit 200 votes yet, but so get your butts to the poll. It's pinned to the top of the chat right over there. And I'm asking, what do you think on this verdict? Do you think he's guilty or do you think he's not guilty? Okay. It's a simple yes. Well, I said yes. He's indeed guilty. He is not guilty. And I don't know. And I will say this too. I think I need to just not use I don't know anymore, because y'all like to use I don't know like a mug, because it's the safe choice. Okay. And I think the next time I use a poll, don't even ask me for the I don't know, because y'all use it too much. Y'all lean on the I don't know too much. It's either yes or no. It's either yes or no. But I see a lot of y'all thinking that he's not guilty, which is also very surprising. That's very surprising. Jane said the big G for me. The big G from me. Yeah. Some people think he's guilty for sure. And then there's a lot of people who think he's not. But it's so wild to me that people really think that he's not guilty. And I'm wondering why? Why? Why do you think he's not guilty? I'm going to tell you this. It's going to be very, very hard. And I know some people are going to be like, I don't like you anymore, Pascal, blah. But it's going to be very hard for his team to prove that he was coerced, harassed, tortured, whatever you want to call it, into saying that he did it. Do you realize how that they're going to have to do as much as they can to prove that he didn't do it, when they have countless recordings of him saying that he did it? What I'm trying to say is, if they lean on the fact of he was pushed to this, right? If he leans on the fact, or if they lean on the fact that he was pushed, that he was coerced into a confession like this, it's going to be very difficult to prove it. They'd have to have some serious evidence to show that he was coerced, a confession, a confession and admission of guilt through coercion by the police. They need to show that for sure. You see what I'm saying? Now, I'm not sitting here saying that it's not possible. We've heard it a million times before in the past. I just used the Central Park 5, for example. So it is possible. I'm not saying it's not, but it will be very difficult. It'll be very interesting to see how they're able to prove that if or when they go back into court and fight for his innocence again. Then also, I'm also curious about this too. Here's the other piece. Was he losing his mind before he was brought in? Or did he suddenly just lose his mind in prison or while he was in jail? That's another thing I'd like to know too. Was he already slipping? Was his mask of sanity starting to slip before he was arrested and detained for this? Or did it happen while he was behind bars? Then the other thing too is I wonder why he was locked up. Or I wonder why, he slipped in this way while behind bars. Is it because of the conditions that he was in, what he went through? Or is it because of the guilt weighing so heavy on him for allegedly taking the lives of these two young girls? Those are the questions I'd like to have answered. And I think that that's something that I think no matter what, any person that's on the side of him guilty or him innocent should get those questions answered as well. Did they present it? Now, of course, like I said, I was not in the courtroom. This was not on camera, so we couldn't watch it and see every nuanced moment that was captured or happened inside that courtroom. But I'm wondering if those things were really fleshed out ad nauseum in the courtroom or not. Or were things thrown out by the judge? Were those kinds of things thrown out by the judge? And if that is the case, that's not fair. That's not right. Because that is the kind of stuff that should be presented for the jury. Because that's still a piece of information that can prove something here. Reasonable doubt or his actual possible innocence. You see what I'm saying? It's interesting, guys. It's interesting. It's very, very interesting. UA Crimson Tide said, you would go crazy with 13 months of solitary confinement. Absolutely. Actually, I'm already crazy, so I'd probably just entertain myself. But I'm already crazy, so it's a wrap. You know what I mean? For me. But any other normal thinking individual, how's that? That isn't loco like me. I'm sure they would definitely lose their minds for sure. For sure. But I'm wondering, is that the information that was brought into the conversation, into the argument, into the trial here, right? I'm kind of curious. Like I said, I'm very curious about that. I'm very, very curious about that. But let us continue on. Let's hear a little bit more of this because, we the verdict is the verdict. And we'll see what they do from this point on about this. I'm very interested to see if he gets a chance at another swing, another crack at proving his innocence. Or if this is a wrap. I don't know. We will see. But let's play a little bit more of this.
Richard Allen, you child murderer! Why did you do it? Shame on you! Shame on you, Richard!
We've been watching
Vinny
that
Politan.
scene for years. And today, the jury agreed. Richard Allen convicted on all 4 counts inside the courthouse in Delphi, Indiana today. And yes, he will be spending the rest of his life behind bars unless there's some legal maneuvering down the road that gets him out or gets him a new trial. But he's facing 130 years in prison. And my guess is this judge is not going to go lightly on this defendant. Welcome back to our coverage of the Delphi murders verdict. I'm Vinny Politan. Great to have you with us on this Monday afternoon, Veterans Day. We thank all our veterans for their service to this country and giving us the opportunity to have our system of justice work the way it does. It doesn't without them, so we thank you today. So we've got a great panel of folks with us. Philip Dubé, Ted Rollins, my colleague, Marie Pereira. You see Gray Hughes in the bottom right corner. And now joining us, Bob Mata, great defense attorney, also the host of Defense Diaries on YouTube podcast. He was also out in Delphi and in the courtroom for all of this. Great to see everyone. Bob, since you were inside the courthouse, want to get your take today as you take in the fact of where we are today, that it's over. Richard Allen is convicted. What are your thoughts?
Well, Vinny, you could hear a pin drop quite literally as the jury was brought back in and as they sat and as the verdict slips were handed over to the bailiff and then to the judge. It was incredibly still in that courtroom, and Judge Gull read the verdicts. Everybody maintained decorum in there, and you could hear relief from the victims' families, and you could hear sorrow from Kathy Allen's family. And it was, those kind of moments in life are just very heavy, all around. You feel, I suppose it would be relief from the families, and from the perspective of the Allens, it's a crushing blow. But you have to respect and accept the verdict of the jury. They put the work in. They were in there for just around 17 hours before they rendered their verdict, and they came out and they found him guilty on all counts.
I mean, they deliberated for a good time. It wasn't like they were there for a day or two and then they just hopped. You know what I mean? This was they did their thing, and it sounds like they took their time, and I'm sure there was somebody there that felt like that there was reasonable doubt. And then they had to talk that person into changing their mind, or persons. You never know, right? It's just crazy.
Bob, let me ask you this. Because you've been covering this story, you're a great attorney. Do you have any lingering questions in this case?
I do, and I don't want to. That's kind of the problem with this case, is just the way that the procedural posture was handled throughout it. I don't want to have any doubts. And there's going to be appellate issues. I mean, there are certainly going to be appellate issues. And I think that anybody that's been keeping track of this case and following it closely knows that there's going to be appellate issues. At the end of the day, I think, Vinny, you and I have talked about this, is the weight of those confessions, which I have I'm very inclined to think that was ultimately the thing that locked it for the jury in terms of coming back with their guilty verdicts. Will those outweigh any other errors that may have been made by Judge Gull during the process, to where those will be found to be harmless error? So, I mean, ultimately it's going to get litigated. Unfortunately for the families, they're going to have to hear about appeals being filed.
Yep.
And, for the Allen family, that's going to be their glimmer of hope, as they still believe that, their husband and brother and son is innocent. So it's not a day of celebrating. It's a day of reflection. It's a day of relief for some, but it's not a day that people should be cheering and celebrating. It's two little girls lost their lives. They will never be brought back, obviously. And in terms of justice, it's the best that we can do.
Yeah, it's all.
But here's the thing. That's the other thing too. There's the other part of, you got to remember that there's still a glimmer of questions. We've seen so many other situations. Like, okay, we covered Diddy, right? We're diddying the hell out of the diddler, talking about that like crazy. There's been a lot of information that's been out here, but at least in one of the cases, at least with Cassie's case, there is some smoking gun evidence here for sure that proves that he is a monster and has been a monster to that one particular person, Cassie. So without question, if he was to go to trial just on Cassie's case and he was found guilty, we would have sat there and said, boom, we are vindicated for us thinking, as in the court of public opinion, for his wrongdoing, for him doing what he did to Cassie. Smoking gun evidence. It's a wrap, son. But I feel like and this is the reason why I think that this particular commentator is saying this, that it's a somber day. Is not only because it is it's revolving around the passing and the M of these two young girls. Yes, that is definitely terrible as well, but there's still questions that haven't been fully answered yet. There is no, oh yeah, he absolutely 110% did this. There's still lines. There's still a sliver of, did he do this? And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people in that room may have been super quiet, because I think some people feel like, clearly there's a lot of people that feel that that they don't have their man, that they don't. So I can see that, right? I can see that. But for me, it's very hard for any juror, even for myself, as on the outside looking in, very hard for somebody to sit there and say, play countless tapes and recordings of someone admitting of doing it in court. And as a juror, if I was a juror, that'd be something that would be hanging over my head very hard. It'd be very hard for me to sit there and go, oh yeah, he no, he's innocent, but you have all these tapes, you have all these recordings of him admitting it over and over and over and over and over again. That could be very tough. Now I understand, the investigation was botched, which doesn't make any sense, because you feel like 5-0 would be on their P's and Q's, make sure every single T is crossed and every lowercase j is dotted. But unfortunately, that's not the situation that we're in right now. But see, that's what I mean by, I could see why this particular verdict was not a joyous, absolute joyous one, not only just because of the passing of these two girls, but also because there is still some room of questions here. It's not iron. It is not airtight. And that, I think, is the problem here too. Hence the reason why you can see, looking at the poll right now, I said, indeed he's guilty. No, he's not guilty. To I don't know. And all of them are pretty much hovering within around the same area with each other as far as percentage. It's wild, because that's what sucks about this. There's a lot of doubts, as I see Emily saying. I have doubts. Yes, I think a lot of people have doubts in regards to this, because it was not iron tight, or not iron tight. It was not airtight. It was not ironclad. And I think that's the problem here too. It's kind of like, all right, he's confessed, but the timeline ain't timelining. The information that's being put out here ain't really fully the information. The investigation was botched to all hell. There's other theories of Odinism and stuff like that. I mean, it's insane, right? But let me grab some of you guys' comments here. Sharon on Facebook, thank you so much for the comment, Pascal. I know he said he did it, but the man has mental issues. That is plain. I think you're saying that is plain to see. We will never know. We will never really know, because he can't defend himself, and not sure his own lawyers really tried. Oh, snap. Oh, snap. I believe his team, his lawyers did try, but I think that there was a lot of things that were pushed back, were suppressed, certain things that they wanted to bring to the court, to the trial, as we heard in one of the commentaries, that was actually pushed back. There were certain pieces of evidence, pieces of information that the defense wanted to bring into the trial that the judge denied, which is bad, right? But his team is trying to appeal. His team is already sitting here saying, like, this ain't over yet. We ain't done yet. We're going to keep fighting, right? So, interesting. Donna, thank you so much for the love. Appreciate the comment. I think when the defense counsel were dismissed by the judge as a retired paralegal, I have never seen a judge show so much bias against a defendant in all my 40 years working in the legal profession. See what I'm saying? Hence the reason why I could see why some people are going to feel some type of way because of how things were approached before the trial even happened. And I could see why some people will look at this and go, oh, there's some corruption here. There's something rotten in Denmark. Maybe. There could very well be something rotten in Denmark. We don't know. But I do know that he was found guilty. And what they presented to the jury is what they were allowed to present to the jury. Did the defense walk in to a losing battle? Did they walk in? Did they bring knives to a gunfight? That's the question I have. And that's a possibility here. But we'll see what happens here. Ain't that something? It's wild because I could totally understand both sides. I could totally understand because in my mind, like I said to you guys ad nauseum at this point, if you got a dude sitting here saying, I did it, like, and he's doing it he's doing it so much. You might as well make it. He said it so many times, you could do a remix of the song. And the whole thing that he said could be a whole doggone song with a dope ass beat. I did it. Right? So much that he says. Said it so many times. So I can see why the jury might go, nah, he did that. Shoot. Why would you say you did something you didn't do? The hell's wrong with you? But if there's mental health added into this, I feel like that is something that should have been brought into the conversation, or at least should have been put in the forefront of this whole thing. If the timeline ain't timelining, right? If the timeline ain't timelining, clearly that should have been something that should have played a part in why the jury may have had hesitations. But if you got a judge that is obviously has some sort of bias, that's not good. That's not good. Because even if, as STL Cards just said, even if the jury got it right, even if they said that even if he really did this, let's just say he did this, okay? Let's forget all the other stuff, the opposing views, the back and forths, the polarization of this whole situation. Put all that stuff on the side. Let's just say he really did this in real life, and the jury got it right. What sucks is if he didn't get a fair trial, that instantly has a huge amount of people sitting there standing on the side of, well, he didn't get a fair trial, so he could be innocent, when in actuality, he could just very well be a bad guy. So, I don't know. Like I said, I'm on the IDK. I know I just gave you guys crap about it, but at the same time, I am on the IDK. I don't know, personally. All I know is that if I heard one side, if I heard, I did it, man, you guilty, bro. You did that. You did that. But I will also say this too. It wasn't executed properly. But I will say, though, that the defense actually did a good job, if you really think about it. Because it instantly put reasonable doubt into the court of public opinion, into some of the court of public opinion's minds, if you really think about it. Ain't that something? Yeah, Pam, the poll is ridiculous. It's very close. It's almost even on all, and I'm gonna end that now because I'm gonna wrap this up because I got some things to do. I got some other stuff I'm gonna be talking to you guys about here on the other platforms and all that stuff as well. So, but still, this is crazy. Out of 332 votes, it's almost even, which is wild. But the top is I don't know. So when I said, "What do you think on Richard Allen's verdict?" 35% of you guys said, I don't know. 34% of you guys said he's not guilty. And 30% said he is indeed guilty. That is almost even across the whole board. That is insane. So some worked. Some worked. The defense did something. Enough for it to be, listen, like, so, okay, Andrea Burkhart, for example, okay, shout out to our lawyer, okay, our Esquire in chief, or whatever you want to call him, okay, she does really fantastic work, and she's been covering this like crazy. She's one of the people that's been leaning on that side of, no, he's not guilty. They just pinned this on him. This is unjust. He was coerced. He was this, this, and this, right? If the defense presented that argument, then they did a good job at presenting that argument, because there are people out here that believe that he is not guilty. Truly. And it will still stay that way until this is retried, until this is seen inside a courtroom again. But this time I'm wondering if they're going to have a judge that's going to allow more things to come through, more things to come out, more things to be presented. Because I do want to know more about the conditions in which what he endured while he was being locked up, during the interrogations and all that stuff. It does make you wonder, what did he go through? What did he really go through? And did this make him say whatever he could so that the torture would stop, the treatment would stop? It's interesting. Something to think about, guys. Definitely something to think about. But that is the show, guys. I appreciate all y'all for being here. It really means a lot. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Yes, she does. It's pretty crazy what she explains throughout the whole thing. And it's heartbreaking to hear. It's absolutely heartbreaking. But I already know how crazy the reaction has been. Let's keep it a buck. There's been a lot of people very angry on X, which I understand. There's people who feel that he did this, and there's people who feel like he's innocent too. I get it. It's been crazy. But we'll see if he actually gets another trial. But he has been found guilty. Sentencing is next month as well. So we'll see what happens. Did they just lock up an innocent man or no? I'll leave that question up to you guys. That should be interesting. Anyway, guys, I appreciate you guys being here. Hit that like button down below. Hit that reaction button if you can. That'd be greatly appreciated. All right. Happy Veterans Day to every single last one of y'all. Thank you guys so much to all the veterans who sacrificed your lives for our country. I appreciate you. You know, it's weird, by the way, that there are kids that were at school today. There were certain places that were open and certain places that weren't. That's weird. Shouldn't this be a day off for everybody? Isn't it a government holiday? Anyway, this is weird. Something I noticed. Like, damn, kids are in school today? What's up with that? It's weird, right? Whatever. Anyway, guys, I appreciate y'all for being here. Thank you so much for being here. Hit that like button down below. Hit that reaction button if you're watching on the TikTok and all that stuff, please. And thank you. Don't forget to hit that follow button. Follow me on TikTok. Follow me on Facebook, X/Twitter, Instagram, Rumble. Show some love. Follow me on all those platforms. Hit that follow, please, and thank you. Don't forget to subscribe here on my main channel. Go to my secondary channel. I got some videos coming to you guys in a very short while. So get your butts over there and check those things out, please, and thank you. All right. Don't forget, check out that join button down below. Become a member. Check out my Patreon and my locals. There's patreon.com/The Pascal Show and locals.com/The Pascal Show. Check out my merch page, pascalmerch.com. And I got that GoFundMe going on. It's in the description box down below if you can. I'm trying to raise a little bit of money for this holiday special that I'm trying to put together. So please contribute if you can. A little goes a long way. Anyway, guys, it's time to get going. Appreciate all y'all. I'll be talking to you guys very, very soon. Be good to yourselves. Be good to one another. We'll talk soon. This is The Pascal Show. Bye.